the atmosphere is really just a fluid, and so what we're studying is the fluid dynamics of the atmosphere, and that's physics. And it also means that math is sort of the language of physics that we would use. So there's that sort of preparation that you need as you undertake a program like this. And as I've mentioned already, there are these different options that also assist you in figuring out the direction you want to go. I didn't mention one of the third thing that's listed here, which is study abroad. So every year, except for this year with COVID, we've offered a study abroad program during winter, which Professor Call runs. And what he does is he takes interested students to Mexico, and they examine a lot of the old sites in Mexico and consider the influence of air pollution on degradation of those sites. And he also intersects with some of the scientists in Mexico to help facilitate that conversation. So it's a really good practical experience for students who are interested in sort of enlarging their perspective on the field. And meteorology is an international field. It's very much something that's of interest to everyone everywhere around the world, and so there's a lot of international collaboration that occurs. Next. So I mentioned that there's math and physics, etc. And so this is just to sort of describe what that is. There's that preparation, a series of calculus classes, a linear algebra, some basic physics, basic chemistry, and programming. We're actually looking at different options in programming. Traditionally, we've worked with the computer science department to have our students learn Fortran programming in an introductory course. We may be shifting to Python in the near future because that's a language that's becoming more important in our field and of course outside of our field as well. But basically understanding how to program a computer is a really important part of what we do. So there's that core, there's that foundation, the preparatory curriculum, and then there's the core curriculum that takes you through the specifics of our programs, as well as a number of electives that allow you to sort of move out into different areas that you might be interested in. For example, this semester, I'm teaching a class called Mesoscale Circulations, which is mostly about thunderstorms and the dynamics of thunderstorms. Also, in letters and science, there are a number of degree requirements, English credits, social science credits, humanities, and fine arts. And so all these additional distribution requirements are something that you can undertake in your 4 years of study in a standard undergraduate program. Next.
Yeah, and just to touch base a little bit more on the degree requirements as well for letters and sciences, so for the overall general education classes, what is listed there are going to be essentially those breadth and subject areas that you will take. One thing to keep in mind that we always recommend students to start to think about as well, if they haven't completed foreign language and world language at the high school level, for students within this degree, they will have that second level of foreign language that they will need to complete. That essentially is completed if you have done 2 years of a world language or foreign language at high school. So if you've already taken Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, then you have completed that requirement. International and U.S. cultural diversity as well can be really easy to essentially kill 2 birds with 1 stone with some cultural diversity classes that may also count as a humanities course. The international credits as well, we have a full list that we always advise to students when we are meeting with them and when the academic advisors are meeting with them. And that also could be world language classes as well if you wish to continue in a world language while you're at UW Milwaukee.
And thanks, Rachel. And that international aspect, again, is obviously something that connects very much to atmospheric science. Just as one example, for the last several years, through the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, I've been working with the Central Weather Bureau of Taiwan on some of the forecasting issues that they have there. So that's just one example of the kinds of things that can pop up. Unfortunately for me, I don't know Chinese. And so when I was visiting them in Taiwan, fortunately, I had a NOAA scientist with me who does speak Chinese. She's a native Chinese speaker. And so So she was able to act as my translator. But that's just an example of the kind of international aspect that can enter into your career as you move through it. Advising and mentoring, really critical elements. Students sometimes, I think, don't really think a lot about this, but it's really important. The advising aspect, there's two elements for us. We recommend that students who are majoring or even intending to major in our program get in touch with faculty as soon as possible in the atmospheric science program, because we can help guide you through those steps that you need to take to prepare yourself and to sort of put you in the right sequence for graduating in 4 years. But it's also really important that you work with the letters and science advising team, because they know a lot more about the distribution requirements and all of those elements that you also need to satisfy. So they can help you on that end. So this combination of advising is really helpful. And of course, if you link up with a professor, that can also help you just thinking about sorting through your questions about what your pathway should be. So it's not just about the details of your program here at UWM, but it's also thinking about the future, what careers you might want to follow, what careers are there, more details about that, aspects of graduate school, what that means, all of those kinds of things. And there can be mentoring too. We actually have a really close-knit undergraduate and graduate student population, and that really helps as far as peer mentoring for our students. So, you know, if you have a problem or a question about something, anyone will be able to answer that. They've all been there before, so they know all about that, and they can give you the straight dope on anything that you'd be interested in, including maybe which math professor to avoid if that's what you're interested in. Good advice, by the way. Next. So I mentioned innovative weather, so I won't belabor this point much more, but again, it's just sort of an opportunity to do practical weather forecasting. It's a real world weather forecasting. These partners that we work with actually pay for our service, and so they expect professional quality, and our students have found in that program that it really helps them to grow as professionals, and they've always been able to pay it forward to the next generation. And so it's been a really another element of our close-knit program that helps our students really connect together. Next one. Yeah, you just carry on. So we're going to have a little blurb about it here. So these are some of our students.
Growing up, I always loved thunderstorms. I was a little kid that was always watching the Weather Channel.
My dad would always sit outside with me, and the thing that always got me is the lightning strikes that were really close to the house, to the point that they let off a sonic boom loud enough that it shook the actual house itself.
Here at UWM, you get to conduct cutting-edge research with faculty at the forefront of their fields. You will gain experience in forecasting, communications, and leadership through innovative weather paid internships.
Innovative Weather is an operation associated with the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee,
which allows our students to actually practice meteorology. So it really connects what you learn in the classroom to what you actually experience outside.
Just like at my undergrad institute, it's just a small knit community.
There is a ratio of professors to students that's about 1 to 1.
Not only do we have a fantastic set of faculty, we have a relatively small program, which means that there's great opportunity to get to know the people who are teaching you, your professors, and also to get to know your fellow students.
Innovative Weather is staffed 365 days.
We have this incredible opportunity to not only learn meteorology in the classroom, but learn it through actually forecasting.
What you do here as a student going through the program, applying your academics to the real world, it matters to the people who we serve.
So as an undergrad, I participated in Weather Challenge. My forecast with Weather Challenge, there wasn't much risk involved. At Innovative Weather, now that my forecast actually matters.
I really do think Innovative Weather prepares us to work in the field. The way I think about it is this isn't my internship. This is actually my job. There's money riding on our decisions. There's people's safety.
Some of the clients we provide weather for are a lot of utility clients like We Energies, Alliant Wisconsin, but we kind of narrowed down to the Milwaukee Brewers, Summerfest, Department of Public Works, also known as DPW, and they do snow removal for the county of Milwaukee. So we help them staff as needed for any storms that are coming.
We actually tailor our forecast to each client's risks. Specifically, how is this going to impact my operation? So that's the question that we try and answer for them.
Rather than just it's going to rain today, we tell them the wind gusts, the lightning, and the wave heights for the lakes, and we tell them the specifics that they need.
As a result, at a more sophisticated level, you're applying your classroom knowledge, your research to an operational environment.
With a possible sprinkle in the morning, turning partly sunny in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Russell Danielson.
Everybody here will do audio broadcasts for WUWM radio.
I feel like I've improved a lot vocally with confidence in the live updates. Just the level of professionalism that Innovative Weather gives you is just one that you can't get anywhere else in the meteorology world at a college level.
I've been able to grow as a meteorologist, and I've also been able to grow as a professional, starting to build my communication skills, building my team working skills.
Doing the weather forecasting, it became pretty clear to me that working with my team members, that was the best part for me, the most gratifying part.
As I'm looking at these jobs, I see that I'm able to check off almost every requirement, and I definitely feel ready as I move forth into the field.
UWM gives you your education, but it also gives you that +1. You get the experience, the weather forecasting experience that will boost your resume that much further in the competitive field to give you that shot at your dream job.
We have the versatility to give you the personal and professional skill sets that you need to be competitive in this job market right now.
You could work for the National Weather Service. You can conduct exciting research. You could go into related fields, actuarial science. You can go into communications, connecting weather decision makers to the end users, the general public.
I want to work for the National Weather Service.
My dream job is to be an aviation meteorologist at Delta Airlines down there in Atlanta.
For my career, my objective is to get into the National Weather Service. I would recommend UW Milwaukee's Atmospheric Sciences program because I feel like it gives you the education and knowledge that you'll need to be successful in the field of meteorology.
Just to follow up on that, so where are those folks now? Lily, Corey, and Russell are all National Weather Service forecasters. So they arrived where they wanted to. David works with Delta Airlines in their meteorology group. Caitlin, who you saw in there, is now the director of the master's program at UW-Madison in their meteorology department. Austin is a PhD student. He actually worked for NOAA in their training branch for a couple years and then came back to do a PhD. He's working with me on a really interesting tropical cyclone project. And Mackenzie is a forecaster for a TV station in northern Wisconsin, at least the last I heard, which is, I think, last spring. So I believe she's still doing that. So all of these students are finding placement pretty quickly in the field if they're interested in doing that. And as you can see, they're finding the places in areas that they want to work in. And so when Caitlin was talking about sort of professional development, and that's kind of what allowed her to move into that academic environment at UW-Madison. So there's a lot of different directions that you can go. It's not all just, okay, I'm going to become a weather forecaster. Obviously, that's what the focus of the program is, but it's really about more than just that. Next. Okay, we can keep going. So this is just a page to highlight a number of the different groups that we do this weather decision forecasting for. And you can see it's a wide variety. So Marquette, for example, another academic institution, but the forecast we do for them is for their sports facilities. They're interested in knowing how weather affects that. We also forecast for UWM itself, snow clearing. The police are interested in knowing about severe weather hazards and things like that. The Niske is a research vessel that operates out of the School of Freshwater Sciences, and they get forecasts from us to support their research missions out on the lake. So really a wide variety of different kinds of applications. Next. That's just sort of an indication of the area that we cover for our forecasts. It extends back to Iowa primarily because one of our groups that we work with, Alliant Energy has their area of interest extending way back into Iowa. But for the most part, we try to overlap in the state of Wisconsin and sort of focus our efforts in the upper Midwest. Next. We also have internships that are available at the National Weather Service. Every year they have openings. They'll ask us, so do we have any students who might be interested in that? And so we let you know about that. There are research experiences for undergraduates programs throughout the country. We've had a number of students participate in those at other academic institutions, so they'll go there for a summer and do research on those places, or a lot of them stay here. We also have internships at local news stations. They're always happy to take a student and kind of get them a view of what it looks like from inside a broadcast organization. Next. So I mentioned research before, and as I mentioned again, even though you're an undergraduate, that doesn't mean you can't do research. As I discussed, we have a very well-developed, excellent research experience for undergraduates program at UW Milwaukee. It's called the SURF program. I've had a number of students that I've advised in that, undergraduate students. And what's one of the other great things about it is while you're learning about a particular research topic that might be of interest to you and to the professor you're working with, you learn about what research is like, and you get paid while you're doing it. It's a paid opportunity. You have to do an application for it, but having said that, once you do that, you can get into that area. Deanna or Rachel, if you can hold for just a second, there's somebody at the door and I have to get this. I'll be right back.
Of course, not a problem. While you're doing that, I can kind of answer a common question that students often ask, which is how do I, take that first step to get into a research project? There's a couple of different ways. A lot of students will utilize the Office of Undergraduate Research on campus. They will post all types of openings in all different types of research labs, and they will help you make that connection. So that's one way. And then another way would be you might just be in a class, maybe with Professor Rober or Professor Evans, and they're talking about some of the things that they're working on outside of class, and you find it really interesting, and you just ask them if there's opportunities that they can create for you in their own lab. So two different routes. One is not necessarily better than the other. You can just kind of explore that way. So that kind of covers how you can take those first steps to get involved in research. I was just telling them about the Office of OUR and how they can utilize their listings.
It's really a good program, and I always recommend it to our students because you can really start to look at the other side of meteorology, not just the classroom experience, and it really sort of enlarges your perspective on what the field is like. Okay, next please. I mentioned study abroad in Professor Call's program, and you can see him and a number of students on the left side of the screen. That's him down in Mexico with his students. He's on the far left. We also have an atmospheric science club, which is an organization that's student run, and it's really good for our students because while you're doing those preparation classes in particular, it's nice to be able to my cat coming in here. It's nice to be able to make those connections with students who are further along in the program and can help mentor you and give you advice. So we've really found that's been very helpful for our students. And we have a local chapter of the American Meteorological Society that will do lectures about topics that might be of interest. And you can sort of link up with other professionals working in the local area. So all of those things are really useful for our students. So the career planning aspect that we talked about before, Chris Rozoff, who's pictured here on the right, on the left, but on the right in the picture, is research scientist with the National Center for Atmospheric Research, which is an internationally renowned research agency in the United States. And he works on tropical cyclones. And so in this case, he was doing a flight in a tropical cyclone, actually taking data in that flight. So that's an example of one thing that people in the field of meteorology do in the way of research. There are obviously a lot of other different kinds of work you can do as a researcher. If you're interested in that path, you do need to do graduate work at a minimum, a master's degree. And so as you're thinking about those different options, it's really useful to talk to people about that, both faculty and maybe even former students who are now in the field. We can link you up with those folks as well, and you can get better ideas about what direction you might want to go.
We also do have located on campus our College and Career Center for students. So this is going to be another great campus resource that we always recommend students check out. It definitely will help with kind of those initial steps of what a job process or job search can look like. Resources that extend even beyond the greater Milwaukee area as well in terms of websites or job postings that are available and that network connection that we have. You can definitely work with the advisors in this office to help write up resumes, cover letters, practice interview skills, and again, not probably as much of a deep dive as if you were working with a mentor or faculty member specifically in the program as to what to expect, but at least starting with those initial steps of what that job process can look like and applying for positions as well. So to cover a little bit of next step information too, for all of us who are looking ahead for the fall 2021 semester and that start, I did just want to give all of our enrollment steps information for new freshmen for the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. Some next steps that we want students to keep in mind: make sure that you are completing the FAFSA for financial aid if you haven't already. The financial aid office is starting to review that information. So once they have that FAFSA, they are pretty quickly turning around a financial aid package for students. We want to make sure that you have all the information that you need before making that final college decision. And one of those factors can be learning a little bit more about that financial aid aspect and what that package can look like. So definitely make sure that you are submitting that, and I can share any office contact information if folks have questions as well within the chat so that you do have that information. One other big step that students can start working on right now is also completing the housing contract or the exemption form. And that is typically due priority deadline by May 1st. I always recommend if you are able to submit it earlier, that is always great as well, so that you are done with it, it is completed. But also typically through that priority deadline, students who are submitting that housing application by May 1st are also hearing back about their housing assignments earlier too. The housing contract is available through the My Housing website, and if that is still listed on your pause to-do list, if you actually click on that hyperlink, it has all of the steps that you need to complete that housing application. Again, I'd be happy to pass along University Housing's contact info if you have any questions. The $150 new student confirmation deposit is also due priority deadline by May 1st, but we will always accept those deposits after May 1st as well. That's essentially your confirmation to us that you are planning to attend UWM in the fall. So that $150 deposit is one of the first initial steps that students may take once they make that decision. And in general, as we are getting closer and closer into the summer, definitely make sure to be checking pause and your email for any updated information on enrollment steps. I know one big update that is going to be coming up soon is information about new freshman placement testing. Since we are not going to be having everyone travel to campus into our testing centers for safety with COVID-19, we are going to be giving updates for all of our new freshmen on what that's going to look like for the fall. So definitely keep an eye out on that. I know that we are in a very cold week right now, but looking ahead as well, by summer, June and July, we will start new student orientation sessions. So once all of your enrollment steps are complete, you are going to be able to register for new student orientation. You will attend the new student orientation sessions and all of the programming within that. And by the end of those sessions, you are registering for your first semester of classes as well for the fall. So you do walk away with that course schedule that you will have and your fall schedule of classes, that you are pretty much all set and good to go for the fall semester. So at this time, we do want to open it up for any questions that anyone may have. I know it looks like we did have another guest join us. I'm not able to see it so far from the list, but definitely take our contact information if you have any questions. Myself, again, my name is Rachel, and Deanna work in the admissions end of College of Letters and Science, so please feel free to email us if you do have any questions or concerns. If not us, we'll make sure to direct you into the correct location and to the direct office as well.